I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Jing Sun, the co-founder of IoTeX. Jing, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Hi, Ashton. It's great to be here.
Likewise, excited to have IoTeX back on the show. We've done a few episodes with them over the years. I know that the platform is continuing to expand and grow, and also today we're going to dive a little bit into the DePIN sector, which is the physical infrastructure networks. I know you guys are tapped into that, and there's some reports that have come out that are very promising, and I think we're really at the beginning of that part of the sector still. So excited to dive into that. I would love to start our conversation off with those who haven't seen our previous interviews or they aren't familiar with IoTeX on a little bit about what is IoTeX and the main missions of the platform, and then we'll dive into all the rest of the details.
Definitely. Thank you for asking this question. As some of them you already know, IoTeX started as a layer 1 blockchain back in 2017. And since, 2020, we launched a blockchain platform, and we always kind of focus on the mission, which is how to connect the real world to Web3, right? Until now, IoTeX, we are a Web3 modular infrastructure platform to directly connect the real world devices, data, and resources to Web3. Mm-hmm. And specifically, we are the platform to enable use cases like decentralized physical infrastructure. We call DePIN.
Mm-hmm. Great. I'm excited to dive into that more, but I'm also curious about yourself and your background and what sort of led you into getting into this side of the physical infrastructure network part of blockchain.
Yeah. I'm a typical kind of investor turned entrepreneur. I spent 8 years in Silicon Valley as a venture capitalist and purely focused on all the frontier tech. We invested in all the projects like, cybersecurity, IoT, AI, and, also amazing kind of tech. Until kind of 2015 and 2016, I realized like some of my AI companies, it's very hard for them to have the open access to the AI data. As you know, at that time, all the AI data actually is controlled and owned by all the tech company, all the giant tech companies like, as you name it, right? Facebook, Google, and those big companies. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I see some of the AI company, they start to pivot and start to find a kind of new model, and which is a P2P model. Mm-hmm. So basically, they looking for the resources from like the community or directly from the users, right? Mm-hmm. So we have invested in one company at the time called, Sliver TV, and they are doing the live streaming platform. Mm-hmm. And then they start to kind of work on a P2P platform, eventually become a SATA network. Right now, they are doing really good, right? Mm-hmm. And we see kind of this model, like how you can crowdsource the resources from the community and create, a tech stack which is completely open and composable. And, opens access to all the innovators who not only can have the access to the data, but also can build on top of open platform. Really kind of, the turning point, right? Mm-hmm. And then we start to look at what the technology is, really kind of do the secure the network and how can kind of, get all the resources together. And we understand this is called the kind of blockchain. Mm-hmm. And then we see the first platform, which is programmable platform for blockchain, is Ethereum. And Ethereum started to come out, and it enabled other use cases. And this is like kind of the turning point for me, that there's such a huge kind of potential. Mm-hmm. And it's not only vertical, it's horizontal. Mm-hmm. It can enable all type of technologies, right? So as an investor, I'm so excited. And I started to invest in this sector back in 2015. And until I met, the co-founders of IoTeX, three of them, they are technologists, cryptographer, and have a huge kind of, vision to connect the real world and devices into Web3. Mm-hmm. And eventually I decided to join them as a co-founder.
Very cool backstory. And yeah, it's great to see the introduction of blockchain coming into these infrastructure networks to allow it to be more peer-to-peer and decentralize all of the control away from those few social companies, which are sort of taking everything and hogging it all. I feel like blockchain is a great advancement towards making it more fair, honest, transparent, and that we still really haven't tapped into it yet. I'm curious on sort of the early use cases, or what are the first things people think of in what IoTeX was built for in any types of decentralized physical infrastructure networks that you could name off?
Definitely. First of all, IoTeX is a blockchain platform, right? So we are enabling the innovators and the builders, so they can create all type of the Web3 applications and the network, right? So as early backers, when we kind of launched the network back in 2020, I think we attract a lot of the DeFi, innovators, and also NFT, right? But very soon we see there's a much bigger kind of use cases, how to connect the devices. And then just like at that time, there's no kind of specific kind of, concept like DePIN. So, we work with like partners, build kind of devices like you can, right? So we launched the first kind of blockchain-based, camera. It's still there. And the main purpose is to protect the data privacy for users, right? But very soon we see actually the biggest value for blockchain is about the incentive model. It's about, how you can fairly, transparently distribute the reward to different contributors in the network. And then this same model and principle can be applied to physical world as well, right? And then just like there's a DePIN, and you see right now, we are enabling all type of the DePIN use cases, and, different type of the devices, like, vehicle devices, like, tracking devices, like even just like as small as your smartphone, right? It really not about, what type of devices, but it's about what type of use cases you are working on, and including like AI, computing resources, live stream resources. So far, so forth.
That's really interesting. And one thing you said there, I'm interested in diving in a little bit more, because you're talking about, the transition as it moves to more decentralized, then people can actually contribute to the network and earn. And I feel like that's where the blockchain comes in to sort of allow them to, hey, I can contribute, 1% of this network. I'm actually going to get 1% of the rewards as well. Are those kinds of use cases already live for people?
Yes, exactly. I feel just like you were surprised. This model come a long way, right? When you imagine just like think about Bitcoin, after Bitcoin is DePIN, right? This is the first time we kind of using the crowdsourced, way to really kind of create money. And in this way, it's like how you use the machines and to do the math. And then just like, to really kind of come up with a hash, and this hash to prove, who and which kind of machines, really create this money, right? So this is so cool. It's a DePIN, right? And now, like a lot of the use cases is real. For example, in our network, there's one project called Demo, right? So what they do is to connect all the vehicles data. So for each kind of drivers, you can directly connect their devices into your vehicle. And, online directly, they can kind of capture the data about your driving data, your safety data, a lot of the kind of your, kind of the environment data happened in your vehicles, right? And then they start to kind of, put those data in a network. Of course, leverage our technologies, they can prove, and share it with different, like, parties, like, for example, insurance companies. And the insurance companies, they based on those data, they can directly give the rewards to the drivers based on, like, how much safe driving you have done, right? And then just like you should kind of be rewarded as certain kind of discount of the insurance, right? But at the same time, when they are kind of scale the devices, right? So they leverage on those type of the rewards to very fast kind of, deploy the devices and make kind of a scalable network much faster than a traditional way.
No, that's really good to hear. And I feel like that makes the market so big. It's like almost like every device in the entire world. If you're saying, okay, if we can make cars smart and put them into infrastructure network or smartphones or routers, is there any way to quantify what the scope of DePIN could be in the future?
That's a very good question. That's also just like, because we as an infrastructure company, we are also doing the research. It's very hard to really estimate, how big is the market. Mm-hmm. But actually, just like, you will see previously, as a kind of the entire Web3 industry, they are only focused on virtual, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. DeFi, NFT, they are all virtual. They never have a way to inject the value which happened in the real world, mm-hmm. directly get into the Web3, right? When we look at kind of the real world, market itself, it's 100, times much bigger than, the virtual world, right? Mm-hmm. And based on some of the kind of forecasts like Masari, which is a research firm, mm-hmm. Even just like, without a lot of irrelevant real world asset, real world data, just based on the DePIN market, they already forecast kind of over 2.2 trillion market. Wow. Yeah, dollar, market is happening now. And if we include like AI, computing, and then it will become 10 times bigger, in 1 decade. Mm-hmm. So I think right now we are still in a very, very beginning. Mm-hmm. When you look at, what currently, what's the total market value, the entire Web3 is, and what's the tiny, like only billions dollar, for the DePIN specifically. There's mm-hmm. such a kind of bigger potential for all the builders, all the innovators, early backer, early users to tap on.
Wow, that's very cool. Great insights. And the 2.2 trillion as a start, I know crypto is not even at that size yet. Yeah. And when you introduce real world assets, I feel like it might take a while. It won't happen overnight, but it is something that I'm excited for because I know that these functionalities will come into physical infrastructure networks eventually. I'm curious on what you see as the next steps in getting there. Is it making the devices, like upgrading physical devices so that they can integrate the blockchain or make them more smart? Or is it something on the software side to make it more scalable? What do we need to get those smart cars or smarter phones that are connected into DePIN?
Very, very good question. I would say, we see the potential there. And we understand we will get there. Because actually the blockchain is really kind of built for machines and devices, even in the very beginning, right? But the problem is how, we can really unlock this entire market. The problem is still, the technical kind of barrier is still too high. Mm-hmm. And especially if we add in kind of the device element, right? The good thing is, not all the projects, they have to build the network from the hardware, from the chip, firmware, hardware, into like the middleware, software, and Web3 by themselves. We believe a modular building. That's why, we position ourselves as a modular infrastructure network. We believe all the innovators, they should focus on what they are really good at, which is maybe one use cases, focus on how to onboard the users and how to make kind of the use cases, accessible, and how to drive the real demand side, right? And all the technical can be, like either like abstract way or leverage on the infrastructure, which are already built by, other builders like us. Right? So, I think there is some missing piece, right now is really important. One is about the device side. Just like you mentioned, we don't really need to kind of rebuild all the devices. So what we need to do is we can leverage on all the existing devices. It could be as handy as your smart, kind of smart home devices like trackers, like your smart kind of, watch and all the smartphones and all the existing devices, right? Or you can also kind of, have some handy new devices. But those devices already have existing board, for example, Raspberry Pi. A lot of kind of board companies, and they already provide the core component. What you do and what we provide is, a very simple device SDK, which can connect those devices to Web3, to blockchain, or to smart contract directly, and tie with maybe wallet, tie with all the Web3 component, right? So that's one thing. They don't really need to build by themselves. And second part is, we already have so many high performance layer 1 blockchain they can leverage to build their own applications. But what is missing here, specific for the DePIN network, is about the middleware. So what does it mean, right? Not all the device kind of, data has to be processed on chain and settled on chain. On chain is all about the valuable things, the variable proof, right? And most of the kind of the computing can be conducted off chain, right? So we position ourselves as the middle layer, middleware, providers. So we provide the off-chain computing platform so that they can easily connect the devices, and most of the work can be done the off-chain computing and only send the proof to the smart contract on various layer 1s, right? And that part can dramatically, accelerate, all the network process, right? They don't really need to kind of build such a kind of a big, bunky, middleware. At the same time, how they can manage and operate that, right? So I think, that's a big part. And all the other parts is about the surface part, right? Say each kind of DePIN network, they also need to have kind of accessibility to storage, all the other things. And then actually they don't really need to kind of create a storage by themselves, right? So we already have existing kind of surface providers like Filecoin, Arwave, a lot of the other kind of providers which already exist in the Web3 industry, right? They are all kind of provide specific resources on chain for them to use. So I think just that's the beauty of the Web3. It's all about the composability.
Yeah, no, that's a great perspective. And when I think about the storage and all the functionality needed for these smart devices, it makes me think how big the blockchain part of the industry will become. Right now there's few tens of millions of people that have wallets, but if we make cars, for example, a smart device, each one of them will have a wallet and be doing transactions. And I'm not sure how far to look into the future, but if these cars are self-driving and they have AI, they're probably managing their own wallet or doing transactions. They are the Uber driver themselves, and they're the manager of the wallet, and they're probably pretty efficient at it.
After the GPT release, we just feel that this future is so near, it's so close to us right now.
Yeah, no, I have a feeling it's coming very soon. Is IoTeX prepared for example, in that case of smart cars where they have a wallet, they're doing transfers, they're driving people around in self-driving cars? I feel like in the few short years, this is going to be a major reality. Is IoTeX in that use case prepared to handle the functionality of what is all needed for smart devices to drive us around?
Yes, I would say technology, they take time, right? And they evolve based on the demand. So we don't really need to kind of say, hey, what if, it's happened, how much kind of capacity we can take right now, and if there is such a kind of huge gap. You can, just 10 years ago, Tesla is really like a toy, right? Actually, just and the technology will be kind of evolve much faster than you imagine, as far as there is a kind of clear problem here and there is a clear demand here, right? So, I would say, we definitely 100% kind of prepared for all the use cases and the scalability, but not now. And now what we still have so many kind of, other kind of, basic modules, you need to focus to make it work. And then just like, you need to understand more about what use cases can work, what use case cannot work, right? And solve the most critical problems, and to kind of make it really useful and, for end users, right? Just like you mentioned, right now, how we can really make, like normal people to use. I think there are still kind of a complicated process, we need to simplify, right? And once we kind of open this door, say even just our grandmom, and at least our parents are very comfortable to use and, join this economy, right? Be part of it. I think just like it's time for us to really work on the scalability and the capacity issues.
Yeah, no, I would hope that my grandparents would be able to get a crypto wallet before my car does. But we'll see what happens.
Well, just like, that's interesting. I would say I never have a way to really convince my parents to use DeFi because it's too complicated and it's too kind of, intangible, right? But I do kind of, convince my dad to use DePIN. Why? Because it's so tangible, right? DePIN is about the devices. And then, everyone now is comfortable with devices. And we just like, plug into one devices into their car and then still can drive as normal. But at the same time, they say, okay, so actually, they realize they are kind of creating the value and they got rewarded. So this is such a kind of a simple and, direct way for them to be part of the economy. I think that's something, really magical, which happened from in the DePIN sector.
Definitely, Jing. And when you have that physical part, I think it's a lot easier to understand. And that was a bit of a barrier to entry with Bitcoin because people are used to holding paper money. And even though most of the paper money is also digital, people just had that relation to I'm holding paper money and Bitcoin. Is it in the blockchain? Is it in my wallet? I don't really get it. But with physical infrastructure, it's like, here's the device. I have it in my hand, and I can see that there's some added value when it's plugged into the network.
Definitely.
So looking forward into 2024, it's a big year for the Bitcoin network and hopefully for DePIN as well. What are some of the main things on the roadmap that IoTeX is looking to introduce into the market and to grow the platform?
Definitely. 2024 is a very huge year. When we kind of look back 2023, we at the the beginning of the year, we set like DePIN first as our strategy for the whole network. And I think this strategy has been proven to be very successful because when we look back, in the beginning of the year, there are only kind of very few kind of DePIN projects. And we are probably the only kind of infrastructure player. We are kind of, enable all type of the DePIN use cases. But, when you look at the landscape, there are very small amount of the builders. But now, we just kind of released our DePIN landscape map, this quarter, and you will see the dramatic kind of growth in the whole sector. There is over hundreds of the DePIN builders and, really serious kind of DePIN projects in different verticals, including like, of course, like 5G, hotspotting, storage, computing, AI, energy station, automotive, like, mobile, like vehicle companies, and all type of the use case, even like some of the virtual, like, based on your mobile phone to create the location, navigation, map, all type of use case are coming up. And this kind of, enhance our belief in the DePIN future. And we also see next year, 2024, will be the biggest year for DePIN. And you will see a lot of projects, they will really achieve the momentum and start to launch their network, connect the device number will grow very fast. And, the network will be, achieving kind of the launch, phase and the token issuance phase, all the things, right? So I think for next year, our overall strategy will be deep in DePIN, right? So we will be kind of really deep in the DePIN, and ourselves, we have several milestones. IoTeX 2.0. IoTeX 2.0 is coming, right? With a lot of, it's kind of multi-phase launch. And specifically, we just mentioned, we, this year, we launched the WebStream, middleware, beta, right? Which is DevNet. And, 2024, we will launch the mainnet. That's a very big kind of, milestone. And at the same time, we will kind of launch a huge kind of, developer tools and a hub for users, not only for the builders, right? Also for the DePIN users. And, we are launching the kind of liquidity hub for all the DePIN, assets to come to, come to the hub so that they can have initial, liquidity there.
Wow.
So there are so many kind of things, but, there's one keyword, it's all about DePIN.
That's very exciting. And I can leave the link to the DePIN report that IoTeX was working on as well in the show notes. What is the best way to follow along for the lead up to IoTeX 2.0 and other information about DePIN and what the IoTeX platform is capable of?
Definitely. Follow our social network, IoTeX.io, which is our Twitter handle, and join our community on TG, and also always look for all the updates on our website as well. But right now we are working on a new version very soon. I think in 1 month we will launch a new IoTeX website, and so that you will be more excited about what's happening for the whole community, the whole category, and also for IoTeX as well.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Jing. I will leave those in the show notes below as well. I appreciate your insights into DePIN. I have high hopes for 2024 in expanding the blockchain side of it and the physical side. All the best with everything leading up to IoTeX 2.0, and let's definitely follow up in the near future.
Thank you so much, Ashton. Looking forward to it.